Hey everyone, I have a special guest today. Um, I have Corinne Underwood with me. She's a sexual health educator and an empowerment coach. She's also a mom, a wife, and a friend of mine. So today at Money and Mind channel, I would like to talk a little bit about some other topic that also important in our life, not just money, right? Other thing is also very juicy and important as well. So Colleen, thank you so much for being with us today and going to be educating us in some of the very interesting topic and also answer some of the questions that I have.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And it's a pleasure to be here. And I'm so glad that we could connect and create this opportunity for people to listen and learn. And one of the reasons that I established Choices for Sexual Health, which is my business, is to create a comprehensive platform for people to learn about sexual health and feel that they have a safe place to come and ask questions and get answers. And particularly for women, I feel that we need a space that we feel a sense of belonging. We all are unique. We have different things that we deal with on a daily basis. And when we can come and share and talk about them, it definitely makes our life much more manageable. So thank you for this opportunity.
Definitely, I totally agree with you. When I found you, I was so happy. Finally, some of my questions can get answered. So without taking too much time, I have a question that has been, I think, a challenge for me for a while. And yeah, so I just want to get it clear, and I hope that this answer from you will be able to help some of other women as well. So I'm wondering, in my life, sometimes there's a time that I feel really down, really depressed. And I just wondering, is there a way that I can prepare for my downtime or even depression from time to time? And I find right now I am living in Canada and it is fall season and it's pretty dark most of the time. And I'm not sure whether that also affect my emotion in general. And then the other thing that I'm thinking is the woman's cycle. I wonder whether it's a woman's cycle, but it's all contribute to my emotion. I feel sometimes so depressed that I don't want to wake up, or even if I wake up, I have less motivation in doing things. So even sometimes in a thing that I love, I also don't want to do it. So my question is, how can I cope with this? Or even better, how can I stabilize my emotion and make it better? And sometimes there's more bad day than a good day in a month. I could have like 20 bad day and 10 good day in a month. So just wondering, how could I manage myself during the downtime?
Well, it's a great question, Sarah. I mean, there's many different reasons that we can be affected by sort of emotional turmoil, I like to call it, or a melancholy, or if you will, a depression. And of course, I'm always an advocate for people to go see their doctor and get blood testing done is a really good thing to make sure that from a physiological standpoint, our levels are adequate and they're where they should be. But beyond that, from a feminine perspective, we are an intricate balance between our mental energy and our emotional energy, and it's the yin and the yang. And we go through every month through our cycle, our menstrual cycle, through that constant rebalancing that occurs. So I'll give you a few examples. So from the time that we start menstruating, which is menarche, which of course can occur anytime from age 8 through to 14, everybody's a little bit different. To the time, it's quite varied now.
It's starting as soon as 8.
It can. It's actually starting much sooner than historically it happened
Oh,
before. There's many sort of speculations as the reasons for that, our food and change of environment, but it seems to be that generally speaking, it's around 9 to 14, but there's some young women that are starting their menarche or their menstrual cycle at the age of 8. So when we first start menstruating and menarche, it takes a couple of years for our menstrual cycle to sort of level out, to become a little bit more balanced. But nevertheless, a lot of women will still have fluctuations in their menstrual cycle. But if we look at our cycle is approximately 28 days. Okay, so
right.
there's going to be variations here and there. And as we go through our lives and we go through the time of starting menstruation, which is menarche, through our fertile years, and then into perimenopause and menopause, our
Right.
body is constantly in this trying to rebalance. And what I mean by that, if you were to take a big circle and you're to draw a circle, and in that circle you were to make a 28-day little notches in that
Right.
circle, but you divide it down the middle, the two sides of the circle, there's a delicate balance. So on one side, I like to refer to it as a seasons. That would be the spring and the summer. And then on the right side would be the fall and the winter. So the winter time is the time that when we are menstruating. That's the time that basically we turn internal. So those are time that we might dream more, we become more reflective, our energy levels drop, we need more care and love and nurturing for ourselves. Our body temperature lowers, so we generally feel the
Wow.
cold a little bit more.
Oh,
And
okay.
so if we relate that to an actual weather like winter, it's very similar to what we're experiencing, the darkness of a season, to what's going on internally. And what can happen is that for the most part, we live in a very patriarchal society, and doing more is praised. And as
Yes.
right, and as for many women, we're all about that word multitasking and doing more and achieving more, and we have jobs and we're moms and we have schedules, and it's hard then to step away from that and actually listen internally to what's going on, because we've gone so far from that internal consciousness I like to refer to. And if we just reflect for a moment, when we look at historically women that would live in villages together, and we're talking way back in the native culture and in Africa, and they would live together in nature. They weren't affected by external stimulation. They weren't affected by this artificial light. They were one with nature. And in that, their electromagnetic energy would align with the moon cycles and water. And that it's like everything flowed as the internal clock. And
Wow.
that's why when women come together in a natural setting, they generally tend to ovulate at the same time, and they tend to menstruate at the same time. So societies would be
Wow.
built around this menstruation cycle. It was amazing. It's so powerful. So just to give a little bit of background history, but so if we
Wow.
think of when we're menstruating as sort of the dark time, that's when it's the dark moon, the weather's dark, the days are long, the days are shorter. It's a time for real nurturing our body and being reflective. And what happens is that if every month we continue to go on without honoring that essential need to recoup and rebuild our energy, then it'll continue to throw our cycle off over and over and over again.
Ah.
And oftentimes that it comes out in PMS, premenstrual syndrome, and
Oh, I see.
mood fluctuations and headaches. And then the melancholy can set in because your body is not recouping. You're constantly taxing your body.
Can I
So
ask, sorry to
yes.
interrupt, what is a melancholy?
Melancholy is like you're feeling the blues.
Oh,
It's not,
okay.
you're not joyous, you're not happy, you're sort of feeling under the weather.
I see.
And
Okay.
just maybe a little sad, maybe more emotional, as people call it.
Right.
And that is your body calling out saying, hold on, listen. Your body speaking to you and saying,
Mm.
you need to take a step back. First of all, start with some self-care and really listen to what your body's telling you to realign the rest of your life when your energy levels are higher.
So, if I could recap, what really you were saying is that the woman's cycle or menstruation cycle is really affect our woman emotion in general. And there's a time in the cycle that we need to go inside, like you say, the inner, the go back and self-care and things like this. So what are the time in the cycle that we should take care of ourselves, and what are the time in the cycle that we actually can do things, can multitask, can do more?
You bet, you bet. So if we think of sort of the winter or the dark moon time is the time that we're actually bleeding, we're menstruating. And when we come out of menstruation, then we're going into what is called the follicle phase. So there's a high level of follicle stimulating hormone, testosterone, and lutein hormone, estrogen. As those hormones start rising, so do our energy levels. So as when we come out of menstruation, that's what I like to refer to as spring. It's a renewal of life, right? And we're now starting to rebuild a creative energy. We're starting to feel more on. Our thought is more global rather than internal. And that generally lasts from the time we stop menstruating till the time we ovulate, is a period of anywhere from about 4 to 7 days.
After we stop breathing on the first
Correct.
day. Okay.
After you stop bleeding.
And also this time is normally, if we are healthy and in tune to our body, it should be around new moon, right?
Yeah, well, indeed, correct. Because ovulation is a time of full moon. Generally, if we're relating it to the moon cycles, ovulation is new moon. It's new life. Okay, so that's when everything is at peak, and that's when.
I'm sorry. Ovulation is full moon or new moon?
No, ovulation is full moon.
Oh, okay.
Ovulation is full moon. So full moon is when everything, your hormones are at peak. You're complete expansive in terms of your thought. Your sexual energy is highest. If you've ever heard the term that there's pheromones. So when women are going through ovulation, they emit pheromones. They emit an extra level of energy. It's a sexual energy.
That. What is that pheromone? What does that mean again?
So basically a pheromone, it's basically an sort of, I like to call it in simpler terms, like an energy hormone, but you're letting off this sort of sexual energy to the world. And in fact, I have a very good friend of mine. She's a server in a restaurant, and she says it's like clockwork. Every time she's ovulating, she gets men asking her on dates at the restaurant. Every other time, they don't bother.
I'll be like the animal in the forest, like
very much so.
Very much so. No calling for mating.
It's very much, it's like a meeting call. Absolutely. And it's very fascinating, and everything is in alignment. Now keep in mind, everybody's a little bit different. So during ovulation, sometimes women can feel a lot of anxiety as well, because everything is coming fast and furious. They have this heightened energy, they have this heightened creative energy, they have this heightened sexual energy. And unless they're able to find outlets for those in a way that serves them, they can start to feel a little bit anxious, right? So ovulation concerning the full moon. So once we leave ovulation, we start to now turn into fall. Our energy levels drop. Okay, so our testosterone levels drop, our estrogen levels drop. We start to want to become a little bit more internal. We are dreaming more, generally speaking. We want comfort. A lot of times you hear women having cravings, chocolate or carbohydrates, and it's the body's wanting comfort, and it's warming, it's care. And if our body has been significantly under stress leading up to that time, and we don't honor that downtime, like I was
Mm,
talking about before,
mm.
by the time we actually start menstruating, we're now completely taxed. And our body is then at a depleted stage,
Oh, I
which
think.
can bring on that emotional downturn, that feeling of depression, my questioning your life, what's going on in my world, my relationship, my job. And it creates, sort of manifests itself in sort of this internal confusion and sadness, and for a lot of women, negativity. And what ends up often happening too is that it blankets over those positive parts of the cycle. So
Oh,
it's so key to be able to, first of all, recognize when that's going to occur in your cycle, and really be attuned to that, to caring for your needs at that time.
wow, wow. This is such a revelation because I heard about the cycle concept before, and before I met you, I have been wondering if it's cycle and we kind of split the cycle into 4 segments equally, then I should have the same amount of good day versus the same amount of down day. But how come right now, most of the time, I have more down day than a good day? So I guess you answer that question that if I don't take care of myself when I supposed to, then it would drag on.
Well, indeed. And I don't know if, there's a lot of talk out there. There's been scientific research that um, your emotional health has a direct impact on your immune system. So
Okay.
if you're stressed and you have a lot of release of cortisol in your body, that cortisol, it has an effect on your organs, everything in your body, your immune system. And so your body then isn't functioning at its peak performance. And so once you're able to alleviate that stress, and give your body rest is key. And that's sort of a scary word for us women in this world. We're always on, but rest is so essential that it'll continue pushing into those other seasons of your cycle, so that you continue to get depleted and you never really feel that uplift.
Oh, this is so eye-opening. It's so eye-opening for me to be aware of my cycle, and also for me to um, be aware that when I feel tired and need rest, I should rest. Because as you say, in this society and century right now, when you rest or rest too much sometimes, even though if we need it, we can feel guilty or find ourselves guilty and blame ourselves that we are not working hard enough. We should be doing more and pushing ourselves even more, and that is just not good.
It's not good, and it's so important. And I mean, this is the messages that are, if we look at our history and our ancestors, that they were trying to continue through generations. And unfortunately, we veered so far away from that. But there is an opportunity here. There's an opportunity for us to get our bodies back in alignment. And I encourage women to start now, because the more that they're able to learn about that wisdom of their bodies, every body is unique,
Wow.
the less the impact is going to have when they're going through perimenopause, and also through menopause. So the time is now.
Okay, and just one quick question that's come to mind. If a person is already have a menopause and after, so they don't have a cycle anymore, would this still apply?
Absolutely. So even though they're actually not going through the ovulation process because they've gone through menopause, their body is still going through a cycle of sort. And we are, that's genetically wired with a female reproductive system to be going through the cycle. Once we've started at menarche to the time we die, we experience a cycle, whether we're bleeding or not. And women actually in menopause can track it, particularly more important if they've been able to start during menstruation to track their cycles, but they will have a much they'll be much more in tune with their bodies through menopause if they continue tracking their emotional cycle and their physiological cycle. And there's so many things that we can do to really honor who we are at every time in the month.
Wow, this is so amazing information. Thank you, Corinne. And I think coming from you now, even though for the woman who already passed the time of breeding or ovulation, but now coming from you, we know that we can also notice the moon.
Very much so.
Right? Even if we don't see our flow, we can notice the moon. But of course, I'm sure that some of our audience might think, oh, is this really real or scientific? I guess the only way to prove it is take yourself out and notice it whether it's aligned with the moon or not. But as Corinne said, if you are not in sync with yourself, then it might be off. But if you really in touch with nature and in sync with yourself, then you can start to observe whether the time that you ovulate is aligned with around a full moon time, right?
Correct.
And just before I let you go, I just want to ask you to give us women some suggestion of what kind of thing that we could do to make sure that we will keep our cycle more balanced, not just too heavy into the doing and the doing. How can we make sure that we keep our cycle balanced so we are not overtired or too depressed for too long?
That's a really good question, Sarah. So for those that haven't tracked their cycles, I highly recommend doing that. If you want it on a mobile sense, there's lots of apps out there that you can track your cycle. And so how you do that is that basically the first day that you bleed or the first day of your period, if you are menstruating, that would be the first day of your cycle. And you can track that in an app or an electronic form, or if you're more of a kinesthetic person and you want to write it down, I highly recommend that sort of pen to paper that really does make a difference, and to keep a journal and a log. And it's really important to consistently do that, because if you do it for 1 month, you're not going to really gain the insight into your own body, because of course there's going to be fluctuations. So I invite women to at least start it on a 6-month period of time to really get an understanding of what their own body is doing. And then once they are able to hone in to what their distinctive cycles look like, then they can start to identify what their feelings during that time and what their needs are. So it could be asking for extra help. It could be time management changes. It could be nutritional changes or exercise, talk therapy, anything that is going to really honor that specific period in their cycle. It's very, very key.
Okay. I will try to make sure that I tracking my cycle and make sure that I do some of your suggestions. So, well, thank you so much, Corinne, for your time and being with us today. And don't worry, we're going to have more questions and chance to stay with Corinne in the next few weeks if you follow me at my YouTube, and also you can check her out in her social channel as well. Corinne, could you tell the audience where can they find you if they want to see you?
Yes, thank you, Sarah. So they can go to my channel. It's Choices for Sexual Health. Plus my website is choicesforsexualhealth.com. And then Facebook page is at Choices for Sexual Health.
That is awesome. Thank you so much, Corinne.
Thank you, Sarah. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.